I am 86 years old, and I want to tell you about the year I decided to look poor on purpose. Not poorer than I am, poorer than I could be. I stopped wearing the good watch. I let the old truck stay old and dusty in the yard. I put my money where no visitor's eye could ever count it. And when I finally sat down at this kitchen table to understand why I had done it, I found there were 8 reasons. 8 confessions about what my things had quietly been costing me all along. I wrote each one down on the back of an old envelope, and when I finished, I did not feel ashamed, and I did not feel proud. I felt honest, maybe for the first time in a very long life. So, come closer and sit with me a while, the way you would sit beside a low fire that has more warmth left in it than smoke. If you are past 60 and you have finally saved a little something, if you are still holding the house, the land, the small pile you worked your whole life to gather, then this is for you. But first, let me say what this is not. I am not telling you to throw your money in the river. I am not telling you to be ashamed of one honest thing you earned. Hear me carefully now. It is not shame. It is not hiding. It is armor for your peace. Does that word poor make you flinch a little? Sit with it anyway and let me show you what I mean. My grandmother lived to be very old in a house smaller than most people's kitchens today. She owned one truly beautiful thing, a blanket woven in colors I have never seen matched again, given to her by her own mother's hands. And do you know where she kept it? Folded at the very bottom of the cedar chest, under all the plain ones, where no visitor would ever lay a single eye on it. I asked her once why she would hide the best thing she owned. She did not call it hiding. She only smiled and said, "The eye that sees your riches is rarely the hand that will help you carry them." She said a thing shown too freely stops being yours and becomes something other people feel they are owed. So, she kept the good blanket folded, warm, and hers. And she died the most peaceful person I have ever known. Do you understand what she was guarding and from whom? That blanket is the whole teaching. Everything I am about to confess to you, she taught me first, without ever once saying the word money. So here's the first confession. When my things were visible, I became a target, and not only to strangers. There was a season after my wife passed, and a little insurance came in when I bought that newer truck and put a fresh roof on the house, and I let people see it. Within a month, a man I had never met knocked on my door with a story about a roofing deal, gentle as syrup. Within the same year, a nephew I had not heard from in 9 years began calling every Sunday, warm as morning sun, right up until the call where he finally asked. My grandfather used to say, "A full granary draws every mouth in the county, and not one of them comes to feed you." I had always assumed it would only be strangers who circled. It was the ones who shared my own blood that surprised me the most and cut the deepest. So, I began to quiet everything down. The older truck, the same worn coat, nothing on the porch worth a second glance. And a strange thing happened. The knocking stopped, and the ones still sitting at my table were the ones who had never once looked up at my roof. Do you know that kind of quiet? It is the very first gift of looking poor. Before I give you the second confession, let me set something down beside you. The way you set a warm cup of coffee near a person you are hoping will stay a while. So many of you have written to me asking how to even begin, how to start loosening your grip on the things you own, how to live quieter after a whole lifetime of showing. So I gathered these lessons, the ones my grandmother handed me, and the ones my own foolishness taught me the hard way, into a small book. It is called The Native Way. It is not a sales pitch, and it is not a fortune. It is just an old man's plain counsel resting in your hands whenever your heart wants it. No pressure at all. I am here at this fire whether you ever open it or not. It is only there if you reach for it. Now, come back and sit close, because the second confession is the one that took me the longest to ever say out loud. It is about love. It is about whether the people at your table came all that way for you or for what is sitting in your wallet. The second confession is this: visible wealth turns love into obligation, and slowly you lose the ability to tell the difference. When people know what you have, every visit carries a second meaning you can never quite prove and never quite shake off. My daughter would come, and she loved me. I truly believe that. But there was a winter I caught myself watching her eyes drift toward the new things in the room, and I hated the cold question that rose up in me. Did she drive all this way for me, or for what sits in my house? My grandmother said, "When your hand is always open with gifts, you will never again feel a hand that only wants to hold yours." That is the true cruelty of it. It is not that they stop loving you. It is that you can no longer feel the love cleanly because your things are always standing in the doorway between you. So I put the things away, and slowly the visits felt like visits again instead of withdrawals. Have you felt that doubt sitting at your own table? That small, cold question about who came for you and who came for the wallet? The third confession is the one I grieved the most, displaying what I had robbed me of, ever knowing who would have stayed for nothing. Sit with that a moment. When you are known to be comfortable, you can never run the one honest test. You can never see who would stay beside you in a bare room with nothing left to gain. Every kindness you receive is a little suspect, through no fault of your own. My grandfather said, "A rich man dies never knowing who his friends truly were, and a poor man knows by Tuesday." When I began to look like a man with little, the fair weather ones fell away like leaves off a branch. And yes, it stung. But whatever was left, I could finally trust. An old friend still showed up with his worn checkerboard and his terrible coffee. And now I knew, without a shadow of doubt, that he had come for me. Is that not worth more than any newer truck? To reach the very end of your days and actually know. That knowledge is the second gift, and you can only buy it by looking like a man who has nothing to give. The fourth confession is about my own peace, the very thing I always claim to want most. Owning things you must display will trade your quiet contentment for anxious guarding. When my wealth was visible, I did not rest. I patrolled. I noticed who noticed. I worried about the truck in the yard, the talk in town, whether I looked like a man worth robbing or a man worth flattering. Contentment is a quiet animal, and it will not come near a man who is always counting and always showing. My grandmother, with her one blanket folded away in the dark, never guarded a single thing, because no one alive knew she had it to guard. She slept like still water. I did not, until I finally learned from her. The day I stopped displaying was the day I stopped standing watch over my own life. Do you sleep well, friend? Or do you lie awake tallying what you have and who might one day want it? The blanket at the bottom of the chest sleeps soundly, and so did the woman who folded it there. The fifth confession is a hard one to say about people I love. Visible wealth teaches the young to wait instead of to live. When the family can see what you have and can quietly guess what they might one day get, some of them, not all, but some, begin to measure your years. I felt it once in a grandson's eyes doing slow arithmetic, adding up what my passing might mean for him. My grandfather said, "Do not let your children learn to love your funeral more than your Tuesdays. That is what showing your wealth can do. It turns your own dying into their planning." So, I stopped hinting at what would go to whom. I let them believe there was very little to wait for. And a strange grace arrived. The ones who kept coming were coming for my company, because there was no longer a prize waiting at the end of it. Would you rather be visited for your life or counted for your death? I know now which one I chose. The sixth confession stands close beside it. Displayed wealth breeds envy and comparison. Even God help us, among your own children. The moment your things are visible, they can be compared, and where there's comparison between brothers and sisters, there is a slow poison. Who got the help with the down payment? Who sits in the newer chair? Who you must have loved more? Measured out in objects. My grandmother said, "What you hold up for one child to admire, you have handed to another as a wound." When I quieted my giving and my showing, I took away the ruler they had been using on each other. The old bickering did not vanish overnight, but it thinned because there was less on display to keep score over. Have you watched your own children compare the pieces of your life while you are still here living it? A quiet estate makes for a quiet family. I wanted, more than any single object, to leave them peace instead of a scoreboard. The seventh confession is about how tired I had made my own self. Showing wealth means you must perform it forever. A displayed life is a life spent on a stage, always polishing, always proving, always answering a question no one ever kindly asked. See, look, my long years amounted to something. I was so busy performing that I forgot to sit down inside my own life. My grandfather said, "The peacock spends all its strength on the tail and has none left over for flying." That was me, spreading my feathers on a front porch, exhausted. When I stopped performing, I discovered I could simply be an old man in an old coat with nothing to prove and nowhere to display it. And the rest of it was enormous. Do you know how heavy the showing is once you feel its full weight? Set it down for one single afternoon and feel your own shoulders. You were never meant to carry your entire worth out where every stranger could stop and weigh it. And the eighth confession is the one I am least proud of. So I saved it, for the very last. Underneath all the others sat a lie I had believed nearly my whole life, that without my things, I was nothing worth seeing. I displayed because I was afraid. Afraid that stripped of the truck and the roof and the full granary, an old man simply becomes invisible, and no one would ever look at me at all. My grandmother knew that fear, and she had buried it under her folded blanket long before I understood a word of it. She said, "A person is not the pile they stand upon. A person is the warmth left in the room after they have gone." It was never truly about protecting my money from other people. It was about learning that I was still someone, even with two empty hands. When I finally believed that, the displaying fell away on its own because I no longer needed it to prove that I existed. That is the deepest reason of them all. That is the one that set me free. Now, I want to say something gentle to myself and to you. Naming these 8 confessions was not the same as hating myself for all the years I got it wrong. I was not a fool for wanting to be seen. Every human heart wants to matter, and things are simply the easiest way the world teaches us to prove it. So I do not look back on the showing years with shame. I look back the way you watch a younger man learning something slowly. Do you hear the difference between shame and simply learning it late? And here is what I found when I turned each confession over in my hands. Every single one of them had a door in it. And a door only ever means one thing. You can walk back through. It is not too late to fold the good blanket away. It is not too late to quiet the porch, to stop the performing, to put the fine watch in a drawer and find out at last who still comes. You do not have to give away $1. You only have to stop needing everyone to know about the dollars. The needing is the whole weight of it. And the day you set that needing down, you will feel years lift right off your chest. I am 86, and I am lighter now than I was at 60. That is not a small thing to be able to tell you. That is the very reason I sat down to speak at all. So, let me gather this up for you now, the way my grandmother gathered the ends of her shawl before she rose to leave a room. 8 confessions. Visible wealth made me a target for strangers and for kin alike. It turned love into obligation. It robbed me of every knowing who would have stayed for nothing. It traded my contentment for anxious guarding. It taught the young to wait for my death instead of my Tuesdays. It bred envy among my own children. It kept me performing when all I longed to do was rest. And beneath every bit of it, it fed the lie that without my things, I was no one. Now, Turn each one gently toward your own life as a question. Do you feel watched when your things are seen? Do you know, truly know, who would sit with you in a bare and empty room? Do you sleep, or do you guard? Are you visited, or are you counted? The answers belong to you alone. But you will never hear them over the noise of everything you are still holding up for the world to admire. And I know the question sitting in your chest right now, because it once sat heavy in mine. Is it too late for me? You are hearing all of this at 70, at 75, at 80. And a small voice tells you the showing years are already spent, and the damage is long done. Hear me, friend. It is not too late, and nothing is truly lost. The people who would love you for nothing are still out there, and some of them are far closer than you think. They have only been standing behind your things, waiting patiently for you to set them down. Folding the blanket away is not an act of loss. It is an act of coming home to your own self. You are not too old to be loved plainly. No one ever is. So, before this fire burns down for the night, let me gather it into one last handful. Remember what my grandmother knew with her good blanket folded warm at the bottom of that chest. Looking poor was never about being poor. It is about no longer needing anyone to know what you have. Now, I would truly like to hear from you. So, tell me down in the comments below. Of these 8 confessions, which one hit closest to home? I read every comment. If your heart wants to keep these lessons close, I have folded them into a small book called The Native Way. It rests there whenever you reach for it. No pressure at all. Rest easy now, friend. Stay a while. Sit with me again tomorrow. There is always a chair open by this fire.